throughout the course, you're going to end up creating a lot of different Python programs to turn in for your assignments. And in general, an assignment has two parts, and each part is its own file or its own Python program. So by the time it's all said and done, you're going to have a lot of files, and we want to make sure that you know how to organize those, how to keep everything separated so that you can find the files you want when it's time to turn them in, and that you don't get confused and all that stuff. So I'm doing this demonstration on a Mac, but it's the same as Windows. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. But I'm starting here. I've just run PyCharm, and I've got the splash screen. PyCharm organizes your work into what they call projects, and you can use projects in different ways, and certainly in kind of the real world, so to speak, outside of education, you may use projects differently. What I would encourage you to do is create one project for each module of the course, for each topic unit that we have, and then do all of your work for that module inside that one project. When you finish that and you take the quiz and you move on to the next module, you create a new project and you start again. That way, later in the course, if you need to go back and see what you did for Module 3, you can find that Module 3 folder on your hard drive on your computer, and you can find the files you're looking for. So I will go ahead and click New Project, and it's going to ask us, first of all, for a location. And so I will browse, and I have made a folder in my Documents folder. I've made one called CIS 156 Work. So I'm going to say Open. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add on a slash, a forward slash, and I'm going to say Module 01. And this way it will create a new folder for all of the files related to this one project, to this one set of programs. And the other thing I'm going to do here, and this is probably not typical, but by default, PyCharm is going to create a program that's kind of your main program for the project, and it's going to call that main.py. And I don't want that in this case, because I'm going to be doing assignments, and assignments have usually specific file names that you're going to use when you turn them in. So I don't need this kind of default file there. I also want to do that so that I can show you, when you have a project with a whole bunch of different programs in them, in it, how can you run the one that you want to run? You may not understand that problem yet, but those of you who have programmed before may understand what I mean, and if not, you'll see when we get there. The rest of these defaults, I think, are all okay. So I'll go ahead and hit Create and let that grind away. I'll go ahead and stretch this out a little bit here. I won't go full screen mode. So it does pop up tips of the day, and they actually are very useful, but I don't want to see them. I get kind of annoyed having them pop up all the time. So I'm just going to finish stretching this out. And so we've got this little navigation area over on the left where we can see all the stuff that goes into our project. It turns out that a PyCharm project has a lot of different parts to it. And you notice that everything else is blank, and this is partly because we unchecked that box to have it make a program for us. So I've got this in place for me to create my my first project. And I should point out, I'm just going to write simple code here. I'm not actually solving the problems for Module 1, just in case you're confused that this doesn't match those assignments. But I want to go ahead and let's say I'm ready to work on a lab for Module 1. I can go File, New, and it's asking me what I want to create, because a project can have more than just kind of your basic file. What we want in this case is a Python file. And so I'm going to call this, I'll call it first program.py. And hit enter. And now it will open this blank file inside my editor, and you can see over on the left it's added that to my kind of tree structure. And so I can put comments in here. If, on all of the assignments, I ask you to put a comment block or a heading at the top, and you can see the specific information I want in that on each of those assignments. And I'm going to zoom it in here a little bit so you can see it a little better on the recording. There we go. And so I can use this this pound sign, what you guys would probably call a hashtag. I can use that symbol to indicate comments, and then I can write my code. So whatever my program, whatever my problem is asking me to do, again, I'm not going to solve the actual problem. I'm just going to write a little hello world program so we can see if it works. Hello world, and then I'll have it say print. This is lab 1, part A. Great, so now I'm ready to run this. Excuse me. Generally, what you'll do to run your program is there will be a little run button up at the top. But in this case, PyCharm is a little bit confused because it's looking for kind of a main Python program, and I didn't give it one. I unchecked that option and I just made my own. So I can get its attention and I can run the program I want. Over here on the left, if I just say right click and I'll say run first program, you can see there's also a keyboard shortcut for it. I will go ahead and run that. And then we're going to get this output window that's going to pop up on a panel at the bottom. It does output a little bit of information from the interpreter, and then it will output my program, and then it has a little exit code when the program is done completing. And you may have other outcomes. If your program crashes, you'll get some information there about the nature of the crash. But this program worked. It said hello world. This is lab 1, part A. So you can imagine that we're going through and we've now finished this first part of the lab, and now I need to go on to part B. To do that, same thing, I'm going to go File, New. You can also, so you can minimize, I accidentally clicked the tab there, I missed with my mouse click. You can minimize and maximize or hide and open, I guess, that panel on the left. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on it and now say New Python file, and this one is going to be second program.py. And you can see we have a nice tabbed interface here, so I can look back at both of these programs. Okay, and I'll do the same thing again. You need to have more information in your heading at the top here, but I don't want to make you watch me type it all, so I'm skipping some of that. That information is listed in each assignment. And now I'll say, here's my other program. And you can see, I'll use this as an opportunity to show what happens when you try to type in an apostrophe, and I'm using apostrophes to, we call them single quotes. We're using single quotes to enclose my string there. It gets confused. And this is one of the things to know about an IDE. Your IDE is trying to help you. So when I typed that apostrophe, that single quote, it detected the end and it sort of color coded it that way, and now it's all confused. It doesn't understand where that other one is. And if I type 1, it types the second one so that it's there. The problem, as you will learn or have learned in that first reading section, is that I'm going to need to address that somehow by, for example, using double quotes and then putting the apostrophe in there. This is lab 1, part B. And so now, okay, great. Now the little run button here is working, so I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And what you notice down in the bottom there is that it's still running part A. It's still running my first program. And so there is once you have told PyCharm which program you want to run, it kind of remembers that. So I'll need to go back to my navigator here, right click, I'm going to run second program, and now it works. Up next to the run button, there is a drop down. Once you have run a program one time, it will appear in that drop down. So now I can switch whenever I want. I can run the first program, I can change it to the second and run it again, and we're good to go. But it doesn't recognize that kind of automatically. And the technical reasons aren't really important to us right now because I'm assuming you're a beginning programmer. So I've done now my assignments for the Module 1 lab, and now I need to go turn those in. So how can I find them? Well, the files were stored in that location I chose when I created my project. And if I remember that, I can just go to my Finder, or if you're on Windows, your File Explorer, and you can go there and you can see there's a Module 1. I'll expand it this way. And Python files have that .py file extension. That's what you're going to turn in. So I don't generally, at least not early in the class, I don't want your entire project. Okay, I just want the Python files because those are your source code. Okay, that's what you typed. That is what I'm seeing in this window right here, the text editor. Now, the other thing you can do, you may have noticed on my context menu here, reveal in Finder. I think in the Windows version it is open file location or something similar to that, but that will take you right to the correct folder, and then you can find your work there so that you can get it submitted. You can do as many programs in here as you want, and so sometimes what happens is students get to Module 2 and they don't think or they don't bother to create another project, and they just keep going. Well, pretty soon you're going to have 10, 15, 20 files in there, and I guess this maybe comes down to your personality type. That drives me nuts. So I don't like to do that. What I like to do is when it is time for the next module, I'm going to say new project, and I'm going to same CIS 156 folder, and now I'm going to call this Module 2. Okay. Now it's going to ask me, the verbiage on this, the wording on this might be a little bit different in the Windows version, but what it's asking me essentially is, do you want to close the old project and open the new one here? Okay. Or do you want to create a new window so that you have essentially two copies of PyCharm? It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to choose this window and show you what it does. So I've got, it's got to work for a moment. So I've got now one window open. It is the same. This window means it essentially closed that that other set of files that I had open, and it's now giving me this project that I've just created. You can use the file menu with open recent to get back at any time. You can also just go file open and navigate to the folder that way. But this way I've got a nice clean project for creating my next set of Python files, my next set of Python programs. If you are working in a different IDE than PyCharm's, it will look different. It will work slightly differently. But for the most part, this is typical of how IDEs work. They will create a folder. They'll put all the files related to that project inside that one folder. And somewhere in there will be your Python files. And again, the Python files are all I want. And in most cases, the only types of file that Canvas will accept are those Python files. As always, if you have any questions or if you're running into any trouble, contact me by email or Canvas.